Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brushes and Bunnies, and in this video I'll be giving you my top tips on how to draw hair. But before we get to that part of the video, I do want to announce something extremely exciting, and it's a project that I've been working on for the past year and a half. For those that are old fans of this channel, you may have noticed my recent absence for the past year or year and a half, and the reason why is because I've been working extremely hard on writing a trilogy. I've just finished the very first book of the trilogy, and it is set to be published this fall of 2021. The book series is a thrilling time travel trilogy of the historical romance genre, and it also involves organized crime. So if you guys are interested in that topic in general, I do urge you to check out my website, annelizabeth.com, link down below in the video description as well, where you can then read the trilogy's synopsis, or the first book synopsis I should say, and also the first chapter. There's also some concept art, and there's an area where you can sign up to the mailing list to be notified for the release of the very first book. And now that the first book is done and the second one is written already and the third is currently in progress, I have a lot more time to dedicate to art, so expect to see a lot more videos on this channel. Okay, that's enough talking about books, let's jump right into the video tutorial. When it comes to drawing hair, I like to break it down into 3 different areas. So we have position, we have direction, and we have texture. So for this video, I'm going to break down what I mean by those 3 things, starting with the position of the hair on a human skull. When it comes to drawing a human face, I like to use the Loomis method. This is a method that I've spoken about in some of my older videos, which I think they're a little bit outdated now. Maybe I have to redo them. But the Loomis method is a great method on how to position, the facial features of a face, naturally, and how everything comes together, essentially. So I use this method all the time, and one of the great things about this method is the guidelines. So there is a line for the positioning of the eyes, for the positioning of the hairline, also for the mouth, and so on and so forth. So I always like to start off with a rough circle. I start to add those lines, and depending on the angle of the face, depending on the type of hair, I already sketch in the area where the hair will naturally fall across the face. So these are sort of just guidelines that I set up initially from the start. So in this case, you see me right now, like at the top of the face that I'm drawing, there is a line that cuts across. So that is sort of the guideline that indicates where the hairline will start. So I just make sure that these lines are there before I proceed with actually drawing the hair. As the face comes together, so the more that I draw the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the sides of the face, I will start to sort of expand upon the hair just naturally. So where the hair falls across the forehead, if the person has bangs, for example, if the hair covers certain areas of the face, for example, the brow bone, I will just automatically kind of sketch that in before proceeding with the overall volume of the hair. When it comes to drawing the rest of the hair, so on top of the head and around the face, there's a bit of a rule. And again, it depends on the type of style that you're drawing. In this case, I'm drawing more loose hair, straight hair as well. Generally speaking, from where you drew your circle as the starting base of the face, you kind of add 2 centimeters on top in terms of the volume of the hair. So in this case, you kind of expand that hair above the circle, about 2 centimeters more or less, on top of the head and around the head. Now, of course, if the hair is more voluminous, is that how you say it? If it has more volume, you can play a lot with the sort of style. And this is where it becomes very, very fun to do. So in this case, you keep your wrist loose, you just basically go wild with your strokes, your pencil strokes, and you can have a lot of fun with it. That being said, we are getting into sort of the territory of direction here. So direction is the second thing that I watch out for when I'm drawing hair, apart from position. Direction is basically just the natural flow of where the hair goes. So pieces of hair, how does it fall around the face? This is something you need to study, especially if you're using a reference photo. So study the hair, how does it fall around the shoulders, around the face? Maybe if it's up in a ponytail, how does it fall around, I don't know, the back of the person? I don't know. It all depends on the reference photo that you're using, but study the strands of hair individually and see how you can kind of mimic that in your sketch. So I like to kind of see it as arrows, right? So there's going to be one strand of hair falling to the left, one strand of hair falling to the right. And by strand, I don't mean like individual strands, I mean like a chunk of hair. So you really need to kind of break it down, dissect the reference photo, dissect the way that the hair falls, break it down into shapes, and see if you can mimic it on your sketchbook. Also, probably the biggest tip that I can give you guys when it comes to drawing the direction of the hair is to keep your wrist loose. No matter if you're drawing straight hair or curly hair, short or long, it helps if you let your wrist really just go with the flow. And this just comes with practice also, but this will add a more natural look and feel to the texture that you're drawing. As for the third point, texture, this one is actually sort of two different things. So I see it as value and I also see it as texture. Value in the way that you use your pencil, maybe a darker tone, for example 2B or 4B, and you shade in. You start to shade in the shadows, you start to kind of highlight the midtones and the highlights, and you kind of create this sort of texture at the same time. And then you also have texture, and texture is a little bit more literal. So if you want to draw something that is more on the realistic scale, you want to draw the individual strands of hair, for example, this is another example of texture. Both of them I like to consider as kind of one element in this case. So when I'm talking about adding texture, this is what I mean. So I use a darker pencil and I start to shade in some of the individual strands to create a certain depth, right? So depending on the reference photo that I'm using, I will shade in some of the darker bits. But because I'm not an artist that draws realism, I don't necessarily focus on drawing all of the individual strands of hair, right? So I just kind of give the illusion that there's texture by drawing darker strands with maybe a 2B pencil, or I use 5B a lot, it really depends. But this is how I kind of tackle it. Something that I will also do is at the crown of the head where the hair kind of splits, or it is there's a part in the like at the top of the head. Here's where I will shade in a lot more with thicker lines, maybe darker lines. Also, if I'm drawing dark hair, for example black hair, then I will just shade in the entire head of hair, but I will also add a bit more texture by playing around with a darker shade in between some areas, maybe around the neck, below the ears, for example. So yeah, so this is how I kind of change it up a bit. Generally speaking though, my process is starting off with an H pencil, and then from then on I top it up with a 2B pencil where I will outline some of the more prominent or areas that I want to maybe add emphasis to. And then from then on, I will take a darker pencil like 5B and I will shade in some of the darker areas. So that's kind of how I sort of, how I tackle hair usually. For those that like to learn from real-time sketches, I've included a short segment as part of this video of a real-time sketch without fast forward or anything, or double speed. So you guys can see basically everything that I explain in terms of how I draw hair. You guys can see it in real time. Otherwise, I will be ending this speaking portion of the video, so I'd like to thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it does help, and I hope it gave you some insights at least on how to draw some hair. I think I will be doing an actual like video tutorial on different types of hair, for example short, medium, long, also men's hair. There's all kinds of different styles, of course, so I can definitely dedicate a few videos to that. I do have 5 weeks off work starting officially now, so I will be ramping up a lot of the videos on this YouTube channel, so I'm quite excited to get started with that. And yeah, so yeah, I'll just generally be more active, which is quite nice. As a final word, don't forget to check out my social media links down below. You guys can follow my sketches on Instagram and Facebook. And also, it would mean the world to me if you checked out my website, annelizabeth.com, and signed up to the mailing list if you want to be informed of the release of my very first book. Thanks again. Hope you guys have a great Sunday, and we will see each other next weekend. Bye!